This DOD brings a lot of new cool things, even though I really hate DOD and I hate that because the HP lock is here, we need to do the triple button twins thing. There's some interesting things that we can actually do here that I do want to show off. So I decided to do this anyways, without the 19 turn bullshit. Essentially, our HP lock works a little bit differently. We actually need to kill one of the buffer mets first, as you see, and then activate HP lock. Because once the HP lock is active, you know, the buffer mets won't die. This is different to how it worked in CN. I have no idea why they changed it this way, and it is very frustrating. The HP lock is also buggy as hell. If you use any keybinds or if you are on controller, the icon tends to just disappear, which is also another bug. Another bug that I noticed with this guild boss is that Surt has a modifier that says when downed, you'll gain 80% final damage. I noticed that doesn't actually work. And you can see that this factors into my rotation, that I don't actually worry about downing Surt as much as I otherwise would have, because 80% final damage is a lot. But I notice that every time I down Surt, the damage I gain is not really substantial enough. And it is definitely not what 80% damage bonus would theoretically entail mathematically. So the theory here is that it doesn't work. This rotation is pretty survivable. The only RNG is to not get frozen. If not for the biggest bug of them all, our HP lock mechanic, they've chosen the name Life Sustainment. That is literally actually some AI Google Translate shit. But at the very least, it's really funny. I can say life sustainment engaged and life sustainment disengaged in my rotations. So it's interesting in that you're not really allowed to apply any debuffs beforehand other than on Surt himself, because he will spawn additional minions that are not on the field. He has two sets of minions, two Baphomets here before the broken phase, and after the broken phase, 5 or 4 jack-o'-lanterns. There was a lot that I didn't understand about Miyu when I first posted my videos, and there's also a lot I still actually don't understand as well. One of the big things that I messed up with it, that I didn't realize that Navi skills also of course get their buffs extended, so that order was like completely messed up. And the big thing that I'm still not sure about is that Miyu is doing her resonances at very, very weird times, and it's not just because that she has, you know, an increased SP cost for her resonance per offshore stack. It's a bit more than that, because this is a rotation that I found to work, but you can tell me that the countless rotations that didn't work, I will not be able to explain you why it didn't work and why this one does work. But I did manage to figure something out that I think was pretty cool. If that didn't make sense to you, and I hear back what I just fucking said, don't worry, because I don't fucking understand what I said either. Maybe you'll see what I mean as the video plays on. I guess what I mean is that in a vacuum, there are more things about Miyu's skill rotation I think we're yet to discover. Most of the setup is also a little bit reminiscent of still what we originally did anyways for the MLD. The idea though is I have even more Pierce. You would think that usually in DOD, because you're able to apply debuffs beforehand, you would need less Pierce and you have the twins on the side nuke. But Pierce, that's not the case, because we cannot apply debuffs beforehand. So what I noticed was it was just better to Pierce up your Miyu, your Navi, and to forget about any defense down buffs. So your 8 skill Sonic Interference, unfortunately not very useful here. I guarantee you that I ran this like upwards of 10 to 15 times maybe, and all of those times I survived. It is very, very unlikely for you to die here. And despite all of these issues, you still produced an insane number. So just imagine if like things worked correctly. Twins are a little bit beat up here because they got focused, and we got a really lucky dodge here to save my ass, but I promise you most of the time it's not going to be like this. And you will see that this is not the number highest possible, because this is not your, you know, super ultra delayed 18 turns. I'm not even on the first turn. I noticed that I'm not max stacked on the Ragnarok, which is a sage debuff on Surt. That is also one thing you need to maintain. The thing is, I did try to extend it one turn, but by doing so, Miyu's resonance again was just offset again, so it's very, very strange. This is a call for incompetence. I'm incompetent. I need someone who is actually able to figure this shit game out and also have the maths on this game too to come forth, because honestly we do not have enough players, do not have enough theory crafters, or maybe I'm a little bit hard on myself, that I feel like, you know, I have done, you know, pretty well for the community and just in terms of my ideas for rotations, but definitely more people, more ideas are really welcome. And you know, the thing about gacha games is that because everybody has different awarenesses and not everyone can afford to have A6s, maybe the quote-unquote best player in the game, we don't even know who they are. They're not in a notable guild, they don't have a YouTube channel, but maybe that's okay. Leaving things open-ended, maybe that's fine. I think another day I'm going to dedicate one video to tell everyone to not put so much much stake on the CN, the old side of this game particularly, because so much things have changed since then, and the players have changed, and so it's not necessarily even that they had worse ideas or didn't know what they were doing. I think the game was just different. Getting that resonance here in early, I don't necessarily even think it's a good thing, but it's the only way that I found to be able to get this first S3 to hit as hard as it does. So the boss is now broken and the Jack-o'-lanterns are spawning with 4 down points. It's a little bit annoying to deal with, but as I said before, we're going to just naturally deal with it. If we waste resources to down them, we're either not utilizing buffs or we are not dealing as much damage as we could have. So this is basically the first and last turn we get to place any defense down debuffs onto the boss, because this is the turn that Miyu will do her massive hit, and so we want to be concentrating everything on here, and it's the only turn we can do it because this is the first turn that the Jack-o'-lantern actually spawns. You can see that all of our most important skills are being used here. The Twins nuke, the Minami skill 1 is most important, and also the shark signature from Wonder here. And after this resonance comes down, you can see that we built up to actually the maximum 8 offshore stacks perfectly, so this turn becomes very, very huge. I see a lot of people trying to, delay the Miyu S3 so the Jack-o'-lanterns can be knocked down further, but you miss the opportunity to get that big Miyu S3. At least I didn't find a way to do it, but there theoretically could definitely be a way to do it. And I'm taking this time to additionally mention that I also, if you do play this fight for longer, it is definitely gets increasingly difficult to actually survive. And also, if you complete your 15 turns of delay, you could also just be magically frozen by one of the ads because they cannot be killed through HP lock properly, so you can realistically only kill one. If someone can magically find a way to kill both without HP lock and not overkilling with an A6 Miyu, then I will you would be a legend. But unfortunately, such thing does not exist so far. Even though on the previous turn we already used the shark, we're going to use it again here to reduce down point. I did say we are not going to try to replace any buffs and to hurry the process of downing. However, the only other viable buff here would be Mataru Kaja, and I think that would be worse than having the Jack-o'-lanterns be downed on this turn. Opting here for the Twin Side Nuke highlight here, even though in the next turn we will have a turn of downtime on the Fire Ice highlight, we value the buff stacking on this set of resonances and also the damage of the Side Nuke highlight during the Miku concert. I was somewhat wrong when I said Miyu really lacked attack. There are some ways, and here in this rotation, for example, I don't show stats here, unfortunately, because I did this run so many times. Let me know if you would like to see at some point the in-battle stats. I didn't show it here just because I've seen it a lot of times already. But yeah, Miyu actually gets a lot of attack here, and of course it's still a good stat for her, and you still want buffs for it, but she's actually not lacking it as much as I previously thought she was. And I guess it is as a consequence of some of the adjustments that I have made as well to have her to run the attack moon, that she does have enough attack. Trying to practice my sophisticated, very analytical, slow talking so that people can understand me, so that when I slur my words, if it's an important piece of information that is not something that's there said to be funnies, that people will understand what I'm saying rather than not understand what I'm saying when I'm talking very much fast. On the very last turn, there is arguments to be made that the items used here for 15% attack on the Marion talent is not actually as good as simply just attacking on the Twins getting the follow-up. I think that for Twins, it's worth it because it is the first action of the turn and you have the entirety of the resonance. But the Minami action, I would say, is closer to arguable. You lose a resonance already on the turn. I conclude, however, that it must still be worth it, and if it ever scores lower than a Minami S1's damage, it's because of variance that cancels out the effect of the buff, not that the buff is actually not as good. This is one of the cases where someone who is able to do math, or someone who, is willing to do like 1,000 runs of trial and error, will be very useful to figure out what's actually best here. But unfortunately, we don't have that, or none of the knowledge that we have currently here have that. I'm not willing to do that, so I don't have the ability to do the math, so fortunately that is the situation. I do appreciate though that at the very end here the jack-o'-lanterns are still attacking, which means that you can still use Fox here. And now whether or not they just forgot to take it out, we'll never know. Regardless that this isn't technically optimal, that's still a fat number. It's bonkers really, because this is like almost 4 whole billion more than what Makoto was doing for us in DOD. So I don't know if there are any power creep deniers for this game, but if there are, then show them this video and show them the video that I made like just a month ago and see the difference of the DPS numbers.